The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We are working the Dallas-Fort Worth area today, and it's funny because we got and I haven't told our expert who's been with us for several years now, that we actually got a text from a gentleman in Amarillo, Texas. And he listens to Mark Underwood's show, and he wanted to know if you take care of cases in Amarillo. Welcome, Mark. How you doing?
Steve, it's always great to see you. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
We're doing good. So we got a text from somebody who listens to your show, enjoys your show, and has recommended you to a friend in Amarillo. Do you practice also in Amarillo?
If it's the right case, we practice in Amarillo. I've been out there more than a couple of times at this point. I've stayed in downtown Amarillo 4 or 5 times, driven through there, even got caught in a snowstorm in Amarillo one time. So
weather gets bad there.
Yeah. We practice in Amarillo depending upon the type of case.
Well, I kind of figured you did, since you also have an office in West Virginia. So we did give him your phone number, and hopefully it'll turn into a case. But Mark, I got to tell you, you're like the kind of cases that you handle, what I call the big boy cases when it comes to personal injury. I hope today we can hear about some of those cases because each one of them are so interesting. But first, let's tell everybody about your firm and your background.
Well, Steve, as you know, but the listeners may not know, my name is Mark Underwood. I'm a lawyer with a nationwide practice. We have an office in McKinney, Texas, and we also have an office in Huntington, West Virginia. Of course, a lot of people ask us, how in the world do you have an office in Huntington, West Virginia, and an office in McKinney, Texas? Well, originally, I grew up in Huntington, West Virginia. My wife grew up in McKinney, and when a fertilizer plant blew up in the town of West Texas, in 2013, April of 2013, we got involved in that case. It ended up with about 182 clients in that case and decided it was time to open an office in Texas. And since she was from McKinney, we chose McKinney to open the office. So, we have used that office to do cases in the Dallas area, down the West Texas area, even up in the Amarillo area. But that's where we are.
It's pretty amazing, Mark, because we have in another city, we have an attorney who also he practices in Houston and West Virginia. I mean, talk about a small world. But, I thought about you several weeks ago because McKinney and Allen's very close to McKinney, and what a tragic thing that happened at the mall there.
Yeah, I shop at that outlet store mall pretty regularly, probably maybe 3 times a year. It's not more than about 16 or 17 minutes from my house. Of course, my son, 14 years old, loves to eat period, but he really loves to eat at In-N-Out Burger. And there's an In-N-Out Burger within a couple of 100 yards of the Allen Outlet Mall. So we go by there all the time, and really, really heartbreaking to see all the memorials and the flowers to all the victims.
Have they reopened the mall yet?
I think they have. I saw in the news sometime this week that I guess towards the beginning of this week that they had actually reopened the mall. So it's my understanding the mall is open. It's also my understanding that they took down the memorials, but I think people are putting them back up.
Well, I thought about you also, and I hope this is not a silly question, but what about people who got shot there? Is that personal injury?
Well, we were approached last year regarding the Uvalde shooting, and let me stop it. To answer your question, there could be a potential personal injury case there. We have been contacted over the years about these types of cases, and it kind of flows from about, probably 20 years ago. We looked at a case involving a defective handgun, and had put out some feelers and posted on some lawyer boards regarding a handgun that should not have discharged when it did. And ultimately, we did not pursue the case, but there's a lot of postings over the years related to that case, and that led to people contacting us about these types of shootings. And we were contacted about the Uvalde shootings that happened about a year ago that were so tragic. And some people have pursued those, lawyers have tried to pursue those cases over the years. We have not tried to pursue those cases for a couple of different reasons. Number one, probably first and foremost, they're extraordinarily difficult cases. Secondly, we're big supporters of the Second Amendment in my office. I hunt pheasants, I hunt quail, all kinds of different birds, have several different Beretta shotguns, and am a member of the Dallas Gun Club. And, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I think there's a problem out there. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I don't think it's possible to win one of those lawsuits in Texas.
Got you.
But we've looked at them over the years.
Well, Mark, yes, I knew we were going to be talking about some of your cases.
Let me tell you something else also. I mean, this is
sure.
Also, people want to go after the gun manufacturers over what happened in Allen, but there's also a potential case against the retail establishment. And we have done cases similar to that before, probably nearly 20 years ago. We had a case where, this is a pretty interesting case. It's really it's not on the list of cases to talk about today, but it segues right into it. We had a case where a young man was walking across the parking lot of a Sunoco gas station. And while he was doing that, he got shot and ended up as a quadriplegic.
Oh.
And it turned out that the shooter was a drug dealer that had some drugs stolen from him, and he had mistaken my client to be a family member of the person that stole the drugs from him. And he had said he was going to kill the family members of this person that had stolen drugs off of him until he got his drugs back. So he saw this 19-year-old young man walking across the gas station parking lot and shot him. And, a lot of other lawyers walked away from that case, but we started digging into it. And ultimately we took the deposition of the security guard who had no training whatsoever. And we found out that the security measures, many of the security measures at the gas station were fake. There was a fake security camera on top of the building. Okay, and it also turned out that the drug dealer had been selling marijuana to the people that worked in the store. So they didn't. When the drug dealer circled through the parking lot of the gas station 7, 8, 9, 10 times that evening, the store personnel didn't call the cops. So later on, when this young man got shot, we felt like it was a negligent security case. So part of a negligent security case, what you have to prove is it's a high crime area. And where the case we had happened was as high of a crime area as it could get. And even though that it's a high crime area, the owner of the retail establishment is not taking any sort of legitimate security precautions. And somebody could try to pursue that angle with the Allen stores, but those stores are actually in a pretty nice area.
Yes.
I wouldn't hesitate to walk through there during the day, during the night. Wouldn't hesitate to have my family walk through there at night. So that's a pretty hard sell in Texas, in that area. So, there's two different angles that, there's the going after the gun manufacturers. There's also the angle of pursuing the retail establishment. Of course, you can try to pursue the shooter, but we can all guess that the shooter is not going to have any assets of any sort that you could possibly tap into, and any sort of potential insurance coverage is probably not going to provide coverage because it's an intentional act, not only intentional, but a criminal act.
Right.
So if I was pursuing those cases, of course, I would try to pursue all of those angles. Ultimately, in Texas, I think the case is not going to win.
Mark, I've seen gone into a lot of attorneys' offices that were working on big cases, and the amount of files, it is just amazing. How could you work on big cases? How do you have time to work on your other cases when you've got so much work on a large case like you work on?
Of course, the biggest, what I call time suck in a large case are the meetings and now Zoom calls that we have with our co-counsel. And, when the big cases are going, we end up on a Zoom call probably every day. And if we're not in a Zoom call, of course, we're corresponding by Microsoft Teams or by email or by text. So when I'm working on the big case, usually we have other lawyers in the office working on the smaller cases. Now, invariably, it ends up that everybody's working on everything because of the need of the case at that moment. But the other thing, of course, we do is whenever we're involved in one of these big cases, we're teamed up with 3 or 4 other law firms. And
okay.
The other law firms will have 2 or 3 lawyers involved. We'll have 2 or 3 lawyers involved. And before you know it, our side has 10 to 15 lawyers involved, which is capable of competing with the biggest and best law firms in the world.
How do you get along with each other when there's different firms?
What makes you think we get along with each other, Steve? Did I say that?
Yeah, I didn't hear you say that.
Yes, Steve. It's
is it tough, Mark?
Yeah. So you've touched on a sore subject there, Steve. So one of the things about lawyers in my end of the business is, a lot of times we don't play nicely with other people. We're people that have sharp edges, cantankerous. We're used to being in charge of our own destiny.
Yes.
We're used to being the boss, right? And
I hear you.
a lot of us worked in big firms when we first started in our careers and decided that we didn't want to, or we couldn't be in that type of legal setting for the rest of our lives. So it can be very, very annoying and tiresome to have to work with that many different personalities. Some of the times on cases, we pick our co-counsel or they pick us more successfully than others, for sure. At this point in my life, my career, I don't normally work with people that I haven't worked with already, because it's just, if the relationship doesn't work out, it's just not worth the hassle at this point in my life. But Steve, it's a great question, and frankly, we don't always get along, but we try to put that to the side and do what's best for the client and the case.
I appreciate your honesty, Mark. Mark's office is in McKinney, and my son has a store in McKinney, a mattress store. And my ex-partner, his father was one of the biggest lawyers in McKinney, Bill Boyd. Yes. I don't know if you remember that name or not, but so we've kind of got some ties here. Now, I love the fact that not only do you work on the smaller cases, but you also work on some very large, unusual cases. Can you share some of those with us?
Sure, Steve. So a couple of the cases we have going right now that are really picking up steam are, one of them is called the Piketon Uranium Enrichment Plant case, which arises out of the Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Uranium Enrichment Plant that's located in Piketon, Ohio. And then we have some cases for some railroaders that were exposed to a spray foam product, and they're coming down with cancer in both of those cases.
Oh, no.
So, the Piketon Uranium Enrichment Plant case is pretty interesting in that it's about an hour south of Columbus, Ohio, and it's about an hour north of Huntington, West Virginia. And during the Manhattan Project, the early part of the Cold War, we started building these nuclear facilities all around the country. Built Oak Ridge, Tennessee. We built the Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Uranium Enrichment Plant. We built Savannah River. We built Rocky Flats. Hundreds of nuclear facilities all across the country that all had different parts in the process of either building a bomb or civilian energy. And what they did in Piketon, Ohio, was they enriched uranium. And it's really the most fascinating case that I've ever dealt with, because I've learned so much about things that you kind of hear about in the news, but you don't really fully understand. For example, we all heard about yellow cake uranium back before the Iraq Gulf War. And I kind of knew what yellow cake uranium was, but Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Uranium Enrichment Plant, they would use mined yellow cake uranium mixed with hexafluorine gas, pass through thousands of membranes to enrich the uranium. And by enriching it, they made it more pure, which also made it more volatile. And it's a fascinating facility. At one time, it was the second largest facility on the planet Earth. Wow. Oak Ridge, Tennessee was the biggest facility as far as square footage that it covered on the planet. Piketon, Ohio was the second biggest facility. And, we all heard about centrifuges related to Iran. And,
yes.
So what's a centrifuge and what's gaseous diffusion? Well, gaseous diffusion passes this uranium gas mixture through these membranes to make it more enriched, more pure, more volatile. Well, centrifuge, what it does is it spins it until it separates out the more volatile uranium compounds. Well, the thing about a gaseous diffusion uranium enrichment plant is it's massive because it has to have basically miles of filters or membranes to pass this through, where a centrifuge plant can be put in a building about the size of a Walmart. And so, a centrifuge is really easy to hide. A gaseous diffusion uranium enrichment plant, you can't hide to save your life because it's so massive. So, we don't want other countries using centrifuges because you can hide them anywhere. Gaseous diffusion is a little easier to spot. And of course, the other thing about gaseous diffusion, you've got to use all kinds of electricity. So when they built this plant in Piketon, Ohio, they had to build 6 electric power plants just to provide electricity for this gaseous diffusion uranium enrichment plant. And the interesting thing about it is this one plant in rural southern Ohio consumed more electricity than all of Manhattan combined when it was running at
Because of the size of the plant.
Yeah, due to the size of the plant and how much electricity was needed to run the facility. But this one plant used more electricity than all of Manhattan combined. At one point, there was about 20,000 people that worked at this one plant.
Wow.
And between operating the first phases of the plant and building new phases of the plant, just a massive, massive facility. And it turns out in the spring of 2019, there was a middle school called Zons Corner Middle School that, and all around the area up there, they've got air monitors. And there was an air monitor located across the street from this middle school. And, those air monitors are sniffing the air for radioactive material, right? So the air monitor across the street from Zons Corner Middle School starts sounding off, starts alerting that there's an issue. They go in, they test all the desks, they go up into the ceiling tiles, they test the nooks and crannies in the middle school, and it turns out the middle school is contaminated with radioactive isotopes. And they ended up shutting down the middle school. And, it turns out, so we have a class action for property damage for all the people that live in the area. And it turns out that there are several children who've gone to the middle school over the years that have developed various childhood cancers, which we contend, it's our opinion, that it was caused by the radiation in the school from the gaseous diffusion uranium enrichment plant. So that's a pretty interesting case. Really tragic to go into the homes of some of those families and see the ashes of their child that died at 16 of a brain cancer. That'll make you.
How many children were involved, Mark?
Right now, we have filed 2 cases for children. We have a third case on its way. We've identified probably 15. We've been told that in a middle school we've been told that there should be maybe 1 incident of childhood cancer in 1,000. We have, identified perhaps as many as 10 in a population of 300 in the middle school. We've also obtained the health data, the cancer data from the state of Ohio, and have been told by our experts that it's elevated. So it's a pretty interesting case. You go back and you look at the videos of when they were building that, and of course it was at the height of the Cold War, and the construction videos are talking about how patriotic it is for this to be built in southern Ohio. And forever, for decades and decades and decades, people thought they were saving the world by producing enriched uranium to be used for either nuclear weapons or civilian power when they worked there. But now people are wondering about the legacy that it's left them.
Well, how do you get a case like that?
Good question. They've started. At this point, we usually end up getting contacted by lawyers in the local area of wherever a disaster is occurring. And they contact us because they know we've done previous cases similar. And then usually we will go in and do a town hall meeting. And while we're doing the town hall meeting, we'll answer everybody's questions. And then if they want to talk to us, they'll contact us after the town hall meeting. But it's usually coming from local lawyers in the area now.
Did you happen to see the movie Erin Brockovich?
Oh, yes. I've watched the movie Erin Brockovich several times. It's interesting. We have a paralegal in our office who just idolized Erin Brockovich. And a few years ago, we did a case in Charleston, West Virginia, where the water was contaminated for about 300,000 people. And we were doing a town hall meeting for that case. And this paralegal that worshiped Erin Brockovich was attending and had organized, was to a large extent put the town hall meeting together. And Erin Brockovich showed up to our town hall meeting. And our paralegal, Natalie Hall, got to meet Ms. Brockovich, and she just was walking on cloud nine after that.
I'm sure. She was, we were talking before the show about the derailment, and I heard she showed up there. How true is that, watching her go into, meet with these families? Some didn't want to meet with her, some did. They were afraid. Is that how it really works?
That's pretty similar. I can remember in one case, the Upper Big Branch coal mine explosion, which killed 29 people, injured about 25 others. We had one of the death cases and 11 injury cases. And we had several members of this one work crew, and they had set up a meeting with one of the final members of the work crew. And we were in his home meeting with him, and he said something to the effect of, well, I don't really know how I can help you. And I don't really know that I should pursue this case. I mean, I'm a whole lot better off than the people that died. And he was really on the fence about hiring us. And ultimately, we got him about $1.6 million.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
He had, some brain injuries as a result of the explosion that he was in the coal mine. But, yeah, so some want to talk to you, some don't want to talk to you. Some think that if they talk to you, it'll, in a small town, it'll cost them their jobs or their reputation or their friends or maybe even their family. Some people are just against lawsuits in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Usually the way we reach out to people that are coming from that position is we talk about the 7th Amendment of the United States Constitution, which guarantees a right to trial in a civil dispute. Tell them that they're just enforcing their constitutional rights and making sure those constitutional rights are protected for people in the future by asserting their constitutional rights now. But yeah, the part in Erin Brockovich where she goes into people's houses and some people slam the door in her face and some people welcome her with open arms is absolutely true.
Is there a deadline because I could see some of these people maybe years and years down the road developing something from this?
So yeah, there is a deadline. What you're talking about is a statute of limitations. Typically, in most cases, statute of limitations in most states is about 2 years, but they have what's called the discovery rule. And the discovery rule basically says that the statute of limitations won't expire, won't pass until 2 years after you discover the injury. So like in the railroad case we have, a lot of the railroaders are just now finding out what has caused their cancers. So statute of limitations can be an issue in some of these cases, but we always look to see when was the injury discovered.
Wow. Well, I could sit here and talk to you all day about this. You always have the most interesting shows, and Mark's with us every month. Mark, tell people how they can reach you.
Well, one of the easiest way to reach us is scrolling across the bottom of the screen there, if you can see the screen, and it's to call us toll free at 844-UNDERWOOD. That's telephone us toll free at 844-UNDERWOOD. Of course, you can also go to our website, underwoodlawoffice.com, fill out a form there, or chat with one of our live chat people, and tell us a little bit about what's going on. We can take a look at it. If it's something we think we can help you with, we'll get back to you and see what we can do.
Well, I'm so glad we have you as our expert in personal injury. Mark, thank you so much. And your wife also, she is wonderful. She's always right there on the ball with everything. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you, Steve. I can't wait.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
It's attorney Mark Underwood. Again, you can reach him toll free at 844-UNDERWOOD, 844-UNDERWOOD. And you can go to his website at www.underwoodlawoffice.com if you have a injury case and you'd like for Mark to look at it. We will be back with you again next week with more Ask the Experts. Everybody have a wonderful week. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.